So the thing Hubbard did was he created something which we call a third dynamic. Now there's all kinds of third dynamics. It's any time you and more than one person get together to do something. Like you get together to play chess. That's a group. It's got a purpose. Play chess. When you finish, the group dissolves. The game is over. Some groups, though, go on. Like, say you get a football team. A lot of people, they all have the same purpose. Play football, make money, win. Do that every week during the season. And while we're doing it, we're a group of guys, usually, who have a common purpose to beat the other football teams, whether we're talking about soccer or American football, which isn't really football. It's more like basketball. But anyway, real football is soccer. You know that. Unless you're stuck in the United States where football is more important than good government, clean air. Anyway, you're 22 years old, you just got out of school, you get a contract with the San Francisco 49ers football team for $126 million. $48 million guaranteed even if you never play. And that's supposed to inspire you and your group to play well. But anyway, a third dynamic is a group of any size, like the United States or the British Empire or Germany. A group of people, whether they're fully aware of it or not, who are gathered together for a common purpose, usually under something like our Constitution or that country's form of government, whatever. And when it's first begun, like the United States first began before it was the United States, back around 1776, it was very exciting. It was the beginning of making a new country that would no longer be beholden to England and its king. But the people were very, very excited. We're going to have a different thing. No king. We're going to be a democracy. We aren't going to bow on our knee or do all this stuff about making a king important. We're going to have a republic, meaning people get elected by the will of the people, and the government exists by the people and for the people. It comes from the people. And those were the people that started back then what became the United States. Now, if those people could see what the United States has turned into 200 years later, they would all drop dead. In the same way that when I look at Scientology in the church and what it's become in less than a century, I feel like dropping dead. But I don't want to give anybody the satisfaction of that. But so Ron started this thing. He started a third dynamic. And people thought, great, we're going to do it. It isn't like we're going to conquer the earth, or we're going to make people believe something, or blah, 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 blah. But we're going to offer something that is different than the steady diet that human beings have been subjected to over the centuries. Being implanted with religion, being implanted with what is right and wrong, being implanted with what you're supposed to do when you grow up, settle down, settle in, go solid, be serious. Stop being a child with romance and vision and imagination. You gotta be squeezed up like this so that you're acceptable in our society. Until the whole thing goes cattywampus one day and all the rules are thrown out the window and we kill and destroy for 6, 8, 10, 12 years because we can't stand the thing we've made. It doesn't serve the highest purposes, the innate need and want for something bigger than just what we call ourselves. So we get a bigger definition of self out of Korzybski and Hubbard. And it's something that's beguiling, it's enchanting, it's a wonderful feeling. It's like, yes, it's like taking a drug. Not all drugs, but certain drugs that blow you out of your mind. Like, boy, I smoked a joint, a reefer, some marijuana, and I laughed for 8 hours. Maybe I should keep doing that the rest of my life. Anyway, drugs can produce experiences that can be reduplicated. They can bring about states where you have increased awareness and all kinds of amazing things. This is not a sales pitch, though, for taking drugs. I'm just saying they do hold those possibilities, but they also hold some negative possibilities that I'm not going to get into at this time. Now, Scientology, Dianetics thing, Krzyzewski, you didn't need drugs, because if you can get going in the direction of finding out more about what you really are, and if you can start looking at the world the way a genius might look at it, like the artist Escher, or the way Einstein or some visionary looks at it, they see a different world. They don't just see a lot of people, okay, I'm going to church today, and then I'm going to job, and then I'm going home, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to get sick, and then I'm going to die, and then I'm going to get... No, those aren't bad things, but they don't serve the innate desire within people that can awaken at any time. Like, here's some old people. One of them says, I fell in love with my 25-year-old secretary. Goodbye, old woman. And bang, or vice versa. The old woman says, I see a nice young man. I'm off. There are all kinds of things that can be awakened in people, not just love, sex, and romance, but the feeling that there is something that's really big and tremendous, exhilarating, that opens up vistas of life and existence that are not always well served by the role of being a human being. Nothing wrong with being a human being. If there weren't any human beings, we wouldn't need Dianetics and Scientology and Krzyzewski. But a human being, that's okay. And within the human beings, let me tell you, some amazing things have been taking place by human beings. All over the world, you can see things both beautiful and horrible that have resulted from the activities of human beings who never had any Dianetic Scientology or general semantics. People who have created empires, people who have evolved philosophies of life that are still astounding, people that have built everything from the pyramids to people. So it isn't as though human beings have no capacities. Now, one of the things I'd like to take Ron Hubbard to task for is in his letter called Keeping Scientology Working, which I rarely speak about Hubbard without mentioning this, because it was like a turning point in the history of the movement, because our father, who art in Ron Hubbard, says at the end of the letter that what we're doing is a deadly, serious activity. And that phrase alone, since 1965, 65, 35, 48 years later, has produced an organization that is deadly and serious. Serious equals solid. Serious over a long period of time makes you kind of crazy. You could probably drive people crazy by just saying, all right, everything from now on is serious. I want you to be serious. But anyway, earlier in that letter that he wrote, which has become engraved in the synagogue of the Church of Scientology, he says that the only thing that people in a group have in common is the bank. He says the only thing in a group, which would be like a third dynamic, the only thing they have in common is a bank. Now there's that is. People have in common bank. Now bank, for those that might not know what that means in Dianetics and Scientology, bank refers to what we call the reactive mind. And the reactive mind, which we don't have to think of as bad or evil, but it has the power to direct a person in ways that are not healthy, or sane, etc., etc. So another name for the reactive mind is the reactive bank. So bank came to mean, in Dianetics and Scientology, what was wrong with the person. So Ron says the only thing that people in a group have in common is bank. He's saying the only thing that they have in common is this thing that causes them to act crazy and be crazy and do things and be ill and sick, which is one of the most untruthful things, I'll call it an opinion, that he ever stated. Now Ron, early on had said, you got to be able to separate my opinions from Dianetics and Scientology. So that's a statement I want to separate from Dianetics and Scientology and call that one of the worst opinions he ever came up with, even though people are given to believing their opinions. Because I want to tell you, there have been all kinds of groups before Ron Hubbard, before Dianetics and Scientology, who have, with great enthusiasm, exhilaration, and enormous triumph, generated marvelous things. Sometimes horrible, sometimes marvelous, but they've done it because they had a lot more in common than bank. What they had in common was the excitement and the vision and the strength and the energy and the whatever that is to really do something. Whether it's play chess or tiddlywinks, or build a new country, or create the Panama Canal or the pyramids. Groups, generally speaking, did things like that. The invention of the automobile, the airplane, individuals and groups. So I want to be the first, the last, whatever it is to say, that statement is a falsehood, that the only thing the individuals in a group have in common is bank, their bank. And everybody has the same bank. Not true. As Korzybski would say, that map does not fit the real territory of human beings. You watch little kids at play, which I get to do a lot of in school, forming groups, choosing up, and playing at levels of real action, exhilaration. They don't care if they kill one another or themselves in order to get out at recess time and run and laugh and sing and play games in which they form groups with a common purpose. And it isn't the only thing they have in common is bank. They have all kinds of beautiful and amazing things in common. And if I don't ever say another word on another video, I want that point made. Now, if anybody can prove otherwise. But I'm saying to you that in my experience, in my personal life, in my vision of people over the years, I have seen and read about and experienced groups that had a hell of a lot more in common than bank. One of the things that makes auditing, which is the activity in Dianetics and Scientology, possible, auditing is the way you help another person to find out more about themselves in life. One of the things about that is that auditors have no problem in taking whatever bank they do have and putting it over there in order to help another person to confront some of whatever their case consists of or their bank and help them to get bigger than that. Not even necessarily get rid of it, but get bigger. So that that thing called bank is like that. And when people are really empowered and they're really playing a game and they really have vision and purpose, they don't have any bank. And I don't want Ron claiming he is the only person that ever created a group that was really, and then later said it was only because they had their bank in common. But that's the thing, the important thing. Negative, the vision that he came up with. Because in the heart and soul of every person I've ever known, me included, I like the idea of having something so idealistic and so beautiful and so wonderful that I would cheerfully give my life, my mundane, everyday existence, to be a part of. I wouldn't want to do it as a member of the Gestapo or the SS or any other. Even if I was inspired to that degree, I would not like the idea that I'm willing to cook people in incinerators and, do all of the neat things. But those people, many of them, that formed up and cheerfully gave their lives for their Führer, even when the war was lost, they were still fighting to keep his fat ass, skinny ass, dirty ass from getting what was coming. They cheerfully continued to die for him because they still believed in their hearts and souls that he had a great vision that something went wrong. The rest of the world just didn't see that getting rid of all the Russians and Slavs and Jews and Gypsies and homosexuals and everybody that wasn't blue-eyed, Nordic guy, that was all that was wrong. If the rest of the world just could have seen that. Hitler had this marvelous plan for everyone. And unfortunately, the idea, well, yes, because of what Hitler says, I cheerfully walk into the gas chamber. I cheerfully watch his legions cross Russia, killing and burning and destroying and hanging and torturing every living thing they come to, because Hitler says Slavic people aren't quite human. And his legions were like, yes, we're on the move and nothing can stop us. Rome, Caesar, Fasciste, conquer the world. It's a great idea, but the world won't be conquered. Many have tried. Few have really succeeded. Even the known world, they say, well, I conquered the known world. That doesn't mean very much. So, yes, so these visionaries and these groups will continue to arise. They have their moment. They're like a firework that goes whoosh and burns out, mostly. Some of them last longer. The ones that last the longest, though, become deadly serious, very dangerous, and have lost the original idea. In fact, they're actually engaged now in opposing the original idea. Because, like, if I could pretend, if my tiger will let me, to walk into a Church of Scientology, or better yet, walk into where David Miscavige and all of the inner people that live in terror of him were, and I made myself up to look exactly like Ron. And I assumed the beingness that Ron Hubbard had circa 1954. And I appeared in front of all of these people at one of these secret or not so secret locations. Well, the things that would start happening at once would be something to behold. First of all, you'd be like Jesus returning, and they would immediately nail him up to another cross, just like that, after tearing his tongue out so that he didn't say anything. Because you couldn't have somebody with the prophetic visions of an observant Jew who took on something called Reform Judaism, never heard of, knew the word Christianity, never heard the word Jesus. Hey, folks, my name is Yeshua, and I'm a goddamn fucking carpenter, a Zimmerman. Get it? And I never said anything that is to change the tenets of the Old Testament in Judaism. It's just I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't go in for some of their crap. Just like now we have Reformed Jews, Orthodox Jews. You have a gradient scale of Jews. You have a gradient scale of Scientologists. But anyway, if Hubbard were to see what was going on in his name, like, out on Hubbard Avenue, you're destroying these people in my name. You lock them in places and treat them like dirty dogs in my name. That's what you learned from me? Well, I would imagine the first thing the Scavenging Company would do would be to put him in a sealed chamber and lock the doors and never let it be known that he existed. Or, if he had enough of his energies going, he would give David a tremendous spanking. In fact, I think he'd kick the shit out of him, just to be honest with you, excuse my language. And thundering effects would start occurring in the Church of Scientology if the 1954 Hubbard were to be re-embodied and come back into the church today. It would be, you could see smoke along in LA as the buildings and as people came pouring out and get the hell out of here and be free. And all kinds of wild things would be happening. International Justice Chief canceled. All the policy letters from 65 on canceled. Okay, so that's how I envision Hubbard. And the thing he did was, when you're part of a group that is embodied with a great purpose, the love you have for fellow group members and the people you meet who are similarly inclined, that's one of the things, Ron. I met people, if you were in Scientology back there, from all over the country and all over the world who had this wow! And many of them became great friends and people that you could love and enjoy being with because of such a common understanding, reality, and feeling of like, whoopee! We're going to give old planet Earth another shot at a civilization. Of course, we're not going to make it deadly serious because that screws it to begin with. We're just going to make it a lighthearted approach to the idea that certain things are possible. And we're going to keep them laughing, give them what they want, keep them happy. We aren't going to get serious. We aren't going to try to, okay, I'll say more about that another time. But anyway, so out of, one of the things Ron did for a lot of people is give them a sense of purpose greater than the mundane, the ordinary. He gave them a chance to form a group, be right at the beginning of this noble idea. And that in itself was one of the most beautiful things that he ever did. And people are still attracted to that because of the tremendous workability of Dianetics and Scientology, but then fall into the trap of becoming owned body and soul by the Church of Scientology, which is never to have been. Never, never, never to have been. Right? Right. All right, so that ends this segment. I have a lot of other things. I don't know if Tatiana and I have time to do them all, but we're having fun. Thank you.